Oh, here we go again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fastest sapphire in the cryptid world, This Week in Bigfoot, the news show that scours the internet and the Bigfoot community each and every week to bring you the people, the places, and the stories making headlines around the Bigfoot world. Then we take it and we wrap it up in a nice, neat 30-minute package for you. We don't want to waste your time, but if it has to do with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or the Wildman, trust me, you know it, we've got you covered. Here's what we got on tap for this week's episode. Doug Highcheck and David Ellis check in with an exclusive Legend Meets Science 2 update you won't want to miss on what just might be the next big thing in Bigfoot research. Native Americans and the Bigfoot legend will fill you in on one researcher's recent investigation into these tales and strange footprints in Georgia and the Harvester trail cam footage. These stories and more Bigfoot news than anywhere else. Go ahead and check. We'll wait. No, we won't. So you better settle in, buckle up, and pay attention, because we move fast around here. You ready? Because the clock's already ticking. Let's go.
911, what are you reporting?
He's walking upright like a man.
With someone or something going around out here.
But he went back up the mountain.
Get somebody out there.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know. He's all black and big. He is big.
If you take the subject seriously and you're being completely honest with yourself, then you can't help but notice that there really hasn't been anything new in the way of breakthroughs in Bigfoot research for quite some time. I mean, I can't really think of anything that's moved the needle lately in serious Bigfoot research. Now, I'm not counting the Bigfoot DNA projects currently underway because, well, there hasn't been any published findings yet. But what you're about to hear right now just may get everyone out there who's ever thought they may have recorded some Bigfoot sounds breaking out those old recordings to take one more listen. For decades, researchers have theorized that Bigfoot has developed the ability to communicate, whether it be through wood knocks, whoops and howls, or infrasound. There are no shortages of speculations and theories. But Legend Meets Science 2's Doug Highcheck and the Olympic Project's David Ellis may have just stumbled upon something brand new, and well, it has to do with hummingbirds. All right, well, Doug, it's always good to have you back on This Week in Bigfoot. Always a pleasure, and it's even a better and more rarer pleasure that you're joined with Mr. David Ellis. David, welcome to the show. I think this is the first time you've been on This Week in Bigfoot, so thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Glad to be here.
So, Doug, it's always, like I said, you've got something that the two of you guys have been working on that is, I mean, we talked briefly before we started push to record here, and I just want you to go ahead and run with this ball and tell us exactly what you guys are working on.
Sounds associated with Bigfoot have been with us for a while, mainly wood knocking, those kinds of things, and maybe some drumming. But what we're about to talk about, maybe nothing but a bunch of coincidences, or it may be the next big thing. As you know, wood knocking is used to attract encounters. This may someday be also used as an offensive to attract encounters. This kind of started back when Tristan Yolton had some recordings that him and his mother were noticing, activity in a certain area. They had put some kind of food that was wrapped in plastic. I think it was some peanut butter crackers. And they recorded a creature tearing open these packages and then eating them. But while it was doing it, there was this weird kind of hummingbird hum. But when I heard it, I went, I just got some kind of deja vu, but just kind of a feeling like, okay, what's important here is not the wrapper being torn open and it's the hum, which sounds very much like a hummingbird. And of course, David had an avalanche of stuff happen after, people coming forward. So let's just let David take over from here.
One of the people that we talked with was Blaine, your son, that had actually recorded something similar. That put it on the radar. Then Tristan's recording kind of nudged you a little bit more. And then I think Jay Birch, he actually was able to mimic the sound to a T. And that kind of floored me. I thought that was interesting because he wasn't associating it with a hummingbird at all. It was just the sound that he had heard in his experience.
During an encounter at the Gifford Pinchot National Forest.
And then a gentleman by the name of Scott McLean, who is now deceased, but he was very much into archives and would find newspaper clippings. And he found one that went back to 1934 where a lady was washing her clothes in the river and she heard what she described was a hummingbird. And then she looked up and there wasn't a hummingbird standing. It was a Sasquatch standing there making this hummingbird sound. So this stuff has history. And I think I have recorded it, but just passed it off as, like Doug has said, possibly an insect or a moth or, it's not an unknown sound, but it is unknown related to Bigfoot, which there seems to be a connection. I'm not saying there is, but I'm just saying that there are other folks that may have recorded it that I would be very interested in hearing from them.
Well, obviously we're going to do, David will do spectrographs on all of them. We're hoping to get more and more information. We're going to try to determine what hertz all this falls into. It seems to be, I guess, preliminary, and I think David would agree, it seems to be in a wide hertz band, and we believe part of it goes into infrasound, which is, of course, very interesting, fits nice with the puzzle. This is fascinating. If we can connect dots like this, and we can get a whole bunch of people that connect dots, get physical recordings that David can kind of put under the microscope, so to speak, and we can see a pattern, then we can reverse engineer it. It could be a tool for research.
Now, I'd like to thank David and Doug for stopping by, wish David a speedy recovery from whatever bug he picked up, and let you know that our entire unedited conversation will be available on our channel for all CARC team members. Now, if you think you've captured anything similar to what you just heard, it's very important that you either reach out to us here at the show or contact Doug directly at doug@untoldradioam.com. And you still have time to pre-order the film or donate to the project. All that information you can find at HangerOnePublishing.com.
There's no shortage of speculation on what Bigfoot's evolutionary timeline could potentially look like. For those of us who believe this is a flesh and blood being, the majority agree it's a type of hominid primate. Some of the more popular theories propose Bigfoot either falls in the Homo genus, the same one as humans, or could be a surviving species of Gigantopithecus. While both theories make compelling arguments, a more overlooked one examines the possibility that Bigfoot could be a surviving or descending species from a genus of ancient hominids called Paranthropus. This genus consisted of 3 species, Aethiopicus, Robustus, and Boise. They lived between 3 million and 600,000 years ago across East Africa and were believed to be between 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall. They had muscular builds, but likely lacked any semblance of human-like intelligence, as their brains were believed to be about 40% the size of modern humans. Although there is evidence Paranthropus used rudimentary tools, scientists are confident they neither used language nor built fires. Paranthropus was thought to live in the woods and grasslands, where they mainly fed on grubs, plants, possibly meat, according to recent studies. Scientists believe this made Paranthropus more reliant on the conditions favoring their food sources, turning them into specialists for thriving in these specific environments. It was this characteristic, however, that scientists believe likely led to their extinction, as Paranthropus failed to adapt in an abruptly changing environment. So now that you know a little about them, let's look at why Bigfoot could potentially come from this genus. To start, we gotta remember that less than 1% of the fossil record has allegedly been discovered. And I know this is a bit of a lazy excuse to start this off, but it nonetheless still gives these propositions a lot of wiggle room. Here are some depictions of Paranthropus' potential appearance. Based on their skull metrics and placement in the evolutionary timeline, they likely possessed a balanced mix of human and ape-like characteristics, much more than we see in other hominid genuses, which would be an ideal foundation for what evolution could have later turned into modern-day Sasquatch. Now, while Paranthropus may have stood no taller than 4.5 feet, multiple studies do show that animals, especially mammals, consistently tend to evolve in larger body sizes over time. Whether or not they'd have enough time to roughly double in height, however, is definitely up for debate. Now, while this is a recurring trait in many non-human primates, Paranthropus is described as having long arms for their bodies. We see this quality in gorillas, for example, and it's a commonly reported detail in alleged Bigfoot descriptions. Lastly, younger species of Paranthropus existed at a time when sea levels may have been low enough for the Bering Land Bridge to have been visible and thus accessible. To clarify, though, there's no evidence Paranthropus even left Africa, at least not yet. So for this theory to have any legs, we're essentially banking on the discovery of Paranthropus remains or remains of its potential descendants getting found outside of Africa, and on top of that, the locations at which these hypothetical remains would have to be found would need to signal an eastward migration out of Africa and into Asia. So with a lot of pieces having fallen into a place, it's definitely a stretch, but I mean, hey, stranger things have happened in science before. Paranthropus also thrived in warm temperatures and would have had to adapt to the colder seasonal conditions Northeast Asia and Northwestern America would have offered. Another detail going against this proposition is Paranthropus are described as having cone-shaped rib cages, which is a stark contrast from the broad barrel-chested descriptions given to squatches in many witness accounts, although this is a characteristic that evolution could have potentially furbished over the years. And regardless of where you think Bigfoot might slot into the evolutionary timeline, I'm afraid right now all we can do is speculate. Having said that, I think you have enough information to form your own opinions on whether or not there's a potential Bigfoot-Paranthropus connection, so definitely let us know where you stand.
Over the last few centuries, Bigfoot has captured the imagination of many, with enthusiasts often turning to Native American stories and folklore for clues about the legendary creature's existence. Tonight, we take a look into Trey Swenton's recent study into Native American traditions as he explores the claims and connections surrounding Bigfoot. For thousands of years, the indigenous people of North America have passed down stories orally, weaving tales of nature, feuds, and the cosmos. One intriguing legend for many is the recurring theme of a creature resembling Bigfoot in various tribal stories. Although the term Bigfoot was coined in the 1950s, fans of the cryptid argue that Native American stories hold the key to understanding the creature's ancient and enduring presence. Native American folklore is a rich tapestry of myths and legends that spans centuries, offering a glimpse into the diverse cultures and beliefs of indigenous people all throughout North America. Trey Swenton, known to many as Trey the Explainer, researched over 170 different stories as he explored the fascinating world of Native American creatures, ranging from creation myths to cautionary tales. The stories, most coming from Kathy Strain's must-read book, and I can't stress that enough, Giants, Cannibals, and Monsters, Bigfoot and Native Culture, covers a wide variety of themes, including creation myths, hero legends, cautionary tales, and historical accounts. From explaining the origins of the world to teaching moral lessons to children, these narratives provide a unique perspective on the interconnectedness of nature, gods, and humanity. But out of all the creature stories studied, only 11% could be loosely described as Bigfoot-like, according to the broadest definition of the term. The remaining 89% presented diverse characteristics, challenging modern perceptions associated with Bigfoot enthusiasts. One notable finding was that 46% of the creatures exhibited human traits, including the ability to speak various languages, often conversing with both Native Americans and white traders. This observation clearly challenges the traditional image of Bigfoot as a silent, elusive figure. And contrary to Bigfoot beliefs, 31% of the creatures were described as using tools more complex than sticks or branches. Additionally, 9% were reported wearing clothing, challenging the notion of a primitive, unclothed Bigfoot. Mike Luci mentioned this last week in his segment on the Wildman. These details highlight the importance of a subtle understanding of Native American creature stories. A significant portion, 20% in fact, of the creatures reported were explicitly described as living in artificial homes such as wooden log cabins, lodges, tents, or teepees. Furthermore, 20% were reported to use fire for various purposes, behaviors not generally associated with Bigfoot. These details underscore the diversity within Native American creature stories. An intriguing aspect of the research revealed that around 25%, 1/4 of the stories, had no detailed explanation or description at all, merely being referred to as giants, monsters, or cannibals. This lack of any detail challenges the inclusion of these vague creatures in the Bigfoot narrative. The creatures that did have descriptions were sorted into 5 main groups: chimeras, spirits, shapeshifters, giants and dwarves, and wild Indians and basket women. Each one of these categories adds a layer of complexity to the understanding of Native American creatures, showcasing the rich diversity within this mythology. Now, while exploring the Native American Bigfoot legend does provide a fascinating journey through the worlds of myth and legend, it clearly challenges the white man's preconceived notions of what Bigfoot is, highlighting the diversity of stories within indigenous cultures. I'd like to thank Tyler Greenfield's post on Facebook for the inspiration for the story, and Trace Swenton and Kathy Strain for their excellent research. Now, due to time restraints here on the show, I only touched on some of Swenton's research. If you'd like to know more about this fascinating history, and I suggest that you should, as always, the links to Trey's film and Kathy's book will be in the description.
Tonight's episode is sponsored by Larynx.
Looks like it's just about that time, folks. If you follow the series, then you know we are just about halfway through episode 46, which can only mean one thing. It's the part of the show that we set aside each and every week for you-know-who to do you-know-what. Last week, Snowwalker Prime took a swing at the BFRO's Matt Moneymaker. This week, he's heading up north, spending some time with Mr. Todd Standing. Here he is again. This is 2 Minutes With.
Echo Station 3K. Spotted Imperial Walker. Echo Station 3PA. We have spotted Imperial Walker. Imperial Walker's on the north.
Oh my God, have you heard about the Bigfoot that cut the gondola cable twice? And there's evidence of this? Oh yeah, this FLIR security footage of the Sasquatch. You're kidding me, right? No, I'm always serious with you. You have footage of a Bigfoot cutting a gondola cable. Yeah, see, he cut it the first time. It cost them like $5 million to fix it. So they set up security cameras and they have security guards. And then he came back and he cut it a second time.
This event mirrors last year's event in a very eerie fashion.
I know I'm going to regret this. How does Sasquatch cut a gondola cable? Have you seen Moonraker with James Bond? Villain there had metal teeth. So you remember the gondola scene? Yes, but Bigfoot doesn't have metal teeth. Oh yeah, you never know. No, I think we do know. Maybe. Are you saying you think Bigfoot has metal teeth? Well, I'm not saying he doesn't. Nothing has metal teeth. Except like excavator. Well, he cut it somehow. That's not the conclusion you can come to. There's clear footage right there. The experts say it's an 8-9 foot tall Sasquatch weighing 600 pounds, designed for the cold.
This would be somebody who's done this before.
Not a human. You're Bigfoot experts. Yeah, a guy by the name of Todd. Todd Standing is your expert?
I've been researching and studying this for months now. Almost 6 months I've been looking into this.
Guy's done several documentaries. He's got a huge fan base. Todd Standing produces mockumentaries. No, I think you're mistaken. He's never said they're a mockumentary. They're documentaries with a D. D is what I would put on the report card for his shenanigans. Look, you can't argue with FLIR. There's footage right there of the Sasquatch. That just looks like a guy to me in a snowmobile suit. Todd said he spoke to another expert in construction and it would take 3 men.
So 3 very skilled individuals.
15 minutes.
At least 15 minutes.
And they'd have to change blades to cut the gondola cable.
They would have to do a blade change.
Oh, okay, so? Well, they would have been seen for a mile, and it would have been louder than a gunshot, so they would have heard them.
The noise would be heard for miles around.
And the shout around the world was the start of the revolution. The men were ready on the move.
People would have investigated. They would have got caught. Well, obviously they did. They didn't get caught because they didn't do it.
No motive whatsoever, because there is none, because it's not a man.
Your case is arguing against human intervention. Bigfoot's responsible. It's right on the FLIR. This is completely ridiculous. Do you know how strong those gondola cables are? I keep telling you that Sasquatch is an amazing creature. This isn't how logic works. You don't work in reverse. I think I'm working just fine. All your arguments are made with the assumption that Sasquatch is a proven animal. Yeah, so? It's a cryptid. The whole point of a cryptid is it's not known to science. It hasn't been proven. It just depends on who you hang out with. No, it doesn't. Just because you're hanging out with people that believe the same crazy notions that you do doesn't make them real. Once again, we delve into your ignorance of democracy. I don't have an ignorance of democracy. I have an understanding of science and logic and reason. You know, I really worry about your heart. If you worry about my heart, why do you bring me this nonsense?
Our investigators believe that the suspect is extremely fit, knows the area well, and has specific knowledge about what tools to use.
It's amazing, pristine evidence. It's Todd standing. Not any question. He knows it's a Sasquatch. Oh, good Lord. And there's only one guy, and the construction expert said it would take 3 guys.
A minimum of 3 very skilled individuals.
So the one guy has to be a Sasquatch.
A Sasquatch did that. A Sasquatch did that. A Sasquatch did that.
I don't understand why you don't get this logic. I don't get it.
And that should blow your mind.
Because it's not logic. Oh, you say potato, I say tomato. You know, Moonraker was very popular. Just because a movie is popular doesn't mean that you're arguing that you're using a movie. This is your support for this being real. I mean, he had metal teeth, but look, he bit through the cable. An animal is not going to bite through a cable designed to withhold a gondola full of people. Obviously it did. No, it did not.
Wild Bigfoot by Larix, the official hat of This Week in Bigfoot, sponsored by Larix.
Here's Mike Luci once again with a Bigfoot Rundown. The Bigfoot Rundown.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Bigfoot Rundown. Let's see what we've got in store for you this week. So, bear with me on this one, but I've seen it pop up a few places lately. Just give it a watch. Just give it a watch.
Olha isso! É muito bem, não é? Tá, bom, vamos cá.
Whatever language these people are speaking definitely sounds East European-y, most likely Ukrainian or Russian by the sounds of it. The only phrase I was able to translate was the guy said, "I'm leaving" at some point. As a disclaimer, I know we're supposed to be looking at, these pieces of content objectively, but the way this video plays out, I don't know about you, it sort of comes across as being staged. A dead giveaway, at least, from this point of view, a dead giveaway was when the so-called figure starts walking towards, the dude and the person filming. Most would say that behavior is highly uncharacteristic of a Sasquatch, but of course, that's just one opinion. Maybe you think differently? Whatever your thoughts, or if you happen to have any more information about this video's backstory, feel free to share. Well, class is in session for our friend Ken Gerhard. The renowned cryptozoologist announced earlier this month that he'll be holding a 6th-class online cryptozoology course. Mr. Gerhard said his classes will be conducted via Zoom. His course will focus on zoology, the history of cryptozoology, paleontology, along with substantial animal discoveries over the past century. Each class in this first course will be about 90 minutes long, with up to 20 students in each one. Unfortunately, Mr. Gerhardt's first course already filled up, literally within 2 days after he opened enrollment. Mr. Gerhardt did say spots in his current course could open back up if any students back out, and he also said he has a list for future registrants whenever he has his next session, which probably won't be for another couple of months. Anyone who completes Mr. Gerhardt's course will receive a certificate of completion, and definitely check out Ken Gerhardt's Facebook page for more information. There's a link in the video's description. So this is a fairly recent YouTube short showing an alleged trail camera recording. Check it out.
Harvester's camera captures a mysterious event that chills you to the bone. In the footage, a dark figure suddenly leaps from a tree, defying all expectations of what should be in the field. It doesn't end there. It makes sharp, almost unnatural turns before vanishing into the woods. What's truly unsettling is the figure's size and appearance. It's massive, and it looks oddly human-like.
The short comes from a channel called Theory Hub's Paranormal and Mystery. It's from a longer video that examines a series of supposed Bigfoot images caught on trail camera. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any information on the footage's backstory. However, this doesn't concern me as much as the particular clip. I mean, it's said it's supposed to be from a trail camera, but doesn't the camera that filmed it appear to be moving? I did ask the YouTube channel for more information about the video's backstory, but they said they frequently receive anonymous submissions with little to no information, pretty much implying this video was one of those cases. And as always, share your thoughts and definitely let us know if you have any information on this video's backstory. So while it didn't gain too much traction, there's an interesting poll I found in the Bigfoot subreddit. A Redditor asked the community what they thought Bigfoot's closest relative was and offered 4 choices: chimpanzees, humans, gorillas, and orangutans. The poll garnered 177 votes. Humans were the clear-cut winner, getting over 57% or 102 of votes. Orangutans finished as a distant second with more than 29%, about 52 of all votes. As the poll mentions, orangutans are believed to be one of Gigantopithecus's closest descendants, which some researchers believe, as we discussed in my main segment tonight, could be a potential ancestor of Bigfoot. Above all, this small sample from the Bigfoot community could indicate that the majority of researchers and enthusiasts believe Bigfoot potentially falls into the same genus as humans. Which of these do you think could be Bigfoot's closest relative, one of these 4 choices, or maybe your thoughts align closer to what I discussed in my main segment earlier this episode? Share your thoughts in the comments. And we've got another find from one of the Bigfoot Believers Facebook groups. Check these pictures out. A Facebook user posted these images of footprints they allegedly discovered Memorial Day weekend in 2019 in northern Georgia. They were discovered in a remote part of Chattahoochee National Forest. This picture here, for example, it looks like it's particularly meant to demonstrate the stride between each print. We see in this one that the photographer uses a Bic lighter for scale. Bic lighters are roughly about 3 1/4 inches long, and according to my measurements, about 4 of them fit in that print, which would put its length at around 13 inches. While the prints are certainly interesting, I thought this picture that I found in the comments was particularly thought-provoking. So this picture allegedly shows the feet of 2 different people. One person who wore shoes for only a couple of weeks. The other supposedly never wore shoes at all in their lives. Which one do you think closely resembles these Georgia prints? Let us know. And here's another video I've seen making rounds. It allegedly shows an 8-foot figure lurking in a cornfield.
Here, but it sounds real far off. Oh my God, killed you.
Hello?
It's from an episode on the YouTube channel Dee's Dark Adventures. It was posted on November 11th and covers her investigation of the farmer's cornfield. Dee estimated the figure she recorded was well over 8 feet, which looks grayish in color. She seems to be based in southwest Ohio, so it's possible this cornfield is somewhere in that proximity. I found a post on the channel's community page saying Dee was invited there to this farm last fall. She says the farmer claims to have problems every other year when they plant. The farmer allegedly heard strange and unrecognizable noises and claims to have spotted unidentifiable movements in the woods. The farmer also alleges that one of his dogs had recently gone missing around the time when Dee investigated the property. Watch the full episode and check out Dee's channel for more information on her cornfield investigation. There's links in the video's description. And yeah, that about wraps up this week's Bigfoot Rundown. As always, thanks again for watching, and we'll be back with more next week.
Bigfoot Rundown. If you caught last week's show, then you saw the segment we did on the Mohow Man, New Zealand's version of Bigfoot. And unfortunately, in that segment, we inadvertently displayed the Australian flag on the segment thumbnail instead of that of New Zealand. So, after several viewers commented on our mistake, and in the name of full transparency, we want to apologize to the good citizens of both nations and present you all with this brief PSA on the difference between the two very similar flags.
But what's the difference between these flags? New Zealand has the Southern Cross emphasizing its location in the South Pacific Ocean. Take note of the 4 red stars with 5 points. The Australian flag, however, has a 5 white star Southern Cross constellation, 1 small 5-pointed star and 4 larger 7-pointed stars, and 1 big star under the Union Jack, also called the Commonwealth Star, with 7 points, representing the unity of the 6 states and the territories of the Commonwealth in Australia. So now you know.
Now, just so you know, we don't just slap this show up once it's done. Before it airs, I send it out to no less than 6 creative consultants for editing and fact-checking, and it looks like this just slipped past the team. Here at the show, we take accuracy, transparency, and full accountability very seriously, even when it comes to something as simple as this. After all, if we are going to try to change how responsible Bigfoot content is produced, then we have to lead by example. I'd like to thank those who wrote into the show, alerting us of the mistake, and remind you, if you have any questions or comments, or you find anything that we got wrong, you can always reach out to us directly at thisweekinbigfootnewscast@gmail.com.
Hey, this is Chuck Larson. You're watching the CARC channel on YouTube.
It's time once again for Chuck Larson and this week's top 3 Bigfoot podcasts and live streams.
Okay, here we go. Evening, everybody. It's Chuck Larson back out again with my top 3 podcasts and live streams for the week of February 12th, 2024. Starting us off at number 3 this week, it's Buckeye Bigfoot. They saw the Ohio Grassman and couldn't get away fast enough. Listeners Nance narrates stories about encounters on Mount Baker in Washington State, as well as the Ohio Grassman at Salt Fork State Park.
I looked over, and right where Danny had said he had seen something, I now saw someone very large and very tall walking. Even 100 feet away, the size was very apparent. I saw a very dark form moving against darker areas, but it was still visible if you looked. It was very noticeable 2-leg walking movement. We watched it for maybe 20 seconds as it walked around to the other side of the cove where there was a little more sun, where it then pivoted and walked through the trees away from the shore. When it walked under shafts of sunlight through the trees, it looked a dusky cinnamon red color, but out of the sunlight, it looked to be almost black. Strangest thing I've ever seen from fur or hair. Was it the Grassman? I can't say for sure, but from the height and the mass, I do not think it was a person.
At number 2, it's the podcast Randy Harrington. When the Bigfoot hits you with a rock, better pay attention. Mike Luci sent me this podcast to check out. In this show, Randy talks about a rock throwing incident and another Bigfoot encounter David Saladay had not too far from the outskirts of Oklahoma City.
He said he just heard a movement in the brush. And he said it's not a big pond, but he said he looked over towards the brush from this northern side here where they were fishing, and all of a sudden he got hit between the eyes with a rock. He said it popped him and knocked his head back and drew blood. There was a mark between his eyes where he got hit with a rock. He said he didn't see the rock. He just looked in the direction of the noise, and then he was hit with a rock.
And the top spot this week at number 1, it's the Everything Podcast on Penford Media. Compelling evidence of Bigfoot, Daniel Perez. I got to meet Daniel a couple years ago. He's a very knowledgeable and a great guy, so this podcast was definitely making the list. Listen as Adam and Austin learn about Daniel and his different research experiences. Enjoy.
I mean, what do we have? What else do we have from, would you say from a scientific standpoint that you find most credible when it comes to the proof of Bigfoot's existence?
Maybe the consistency of reports that have happened and have been reported in North America over hundreds and hundreds of years, that start appearing in some of the earliest newspaper accounts up to the present time. In terms of physical evidence, we don't really have anything. But if you were to call footprint castings, say, from a forensic point of view, that if say a man that robs a bank leaves bloody footprint behind from his shoes on the sidewalk, and the police investigators come, takes photos of those, that would be considered physical forensic evidence of this individual who was there at a certain time.
All right, folks, it pains me once again to tell you that episode 46 is all done. We are out of time for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for watching and remind you to like and share everything we do at the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. You got to tell your friends. It's important for us and it's important for the success of the show. And if you have any questions or comments, or maybe a story you'd like to see us cover, you can always drop us a line at ThisWeekinBigfootNewscast@gmail.com. So, until next week, for Mike Luci, Chuck Larson, and Snowwalker Prime, I'm Brendon Brown, reminding you that when it comes to getting your Bigfoot news, be informed, not biased. Take care. We'll see you next week.